Hey, hey, hey. I know it's been a long time, and I've been meaning to do this. Um, I know some people would rather me go live and do my reading, but something um, just told me to do a reading today. So I'm going to do that. And some of my subscribers had been asking me when I was going to start back reading the ovarian cancer stories. So here I am, um, ready to do this. I was going to do it live, but like I said, I'm going to read some of the stories that's in this book that's long. The ones I have been reading, y'all. I tried to pick out some short ones because I know it'll get boring with me just reading these stories, and a lot of people don't have the patience to sit and listen to get something out of the stories of these women um, that have ovarian cancer. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, this book is called Torch. It stands for Tales of Remarkable Courage and Hope. Uh, there's two books, and these have, I think it's 25 or 24 stories of 24, 25 women that have or had ovarian cancer. Some of them are still here living, and some of them have passed on. And I had, like I said, when I was doing the readings, I tried to choose some of the ones that were short, because there are some stories in here that are long, that are 4 or 5 pages. And reason being is because these women wrote their own stories, and some of them just went straight to the point, and some of them started from the beginning, from when they began to have symptoms up until um, the deadline for them to turn their stories in to get this book published. So this is what, for those people that's not familiar with what I'm talking about, or the books or the readings, this is what it is: ovarian cancer. And another reason is today I had an appointment to go get my mammogram for this year. So that also, right here's and when I did my mammogram, this is what they gave. They give you a little something every time when you go to get your mammogram. So it's a calendar, a pink little calendar with a pretty pink pen. It says, "Today happens only once. Make it amazing." It's a monthly planner. So, yeah. So they give you this and give you a nice little pen. It's a pretty little pen. So, thought I'll show y'all that. And for all those women that have not went and got their mammogram, make sure you go and get your mammogram. Even though, yes, breast cancer awareness has passed, but it never passed. Always go and get your mammogram. Let's see. So I'm going to start, and if you hear my puppy in there whining, it's Onyx. She's spoiled. She wants to come in here. She wants to know what I'm doing. so she can come in here and crawl up on me and walk across my computer and all that. So hopefully she don't whine too loud where y'all can't hear me. And oh, I'm looking at the time, and hopefully my grandkids don't. They're about to get out of school. Hopefully they don't bust in the door with a bunch of noise. Okay, so this story is going to be titled "An Unexpected Journey." My journey with ovarian cancer began nearly 4.5 years ago in November 2002. 5 months earlier, in May 2002, I decided to stop taking hormones because of the published cancer scares. About the same time, I noticed a gradual thickening around my middle, attributing this to the fact that I was probably just going to get fat after no longer taking hormones. I put it out of my mind. In October, I started feeling a lot of discomfort in my upper abdomen. I can't even say the word. Abdomen. Okay. Sort of a full feeling. Sometimes when I sat down, I had trouble breathing, and my stomach was getting more and more chubby. However, I was not feeling any pain. In late October 2002, I made an appointment with my family doctor, who took one look at my bloated stomach and ordered a sonogram. Thankfully, because of his suspicions of ovarian cancer, he immediately ordered a CT scan that confirmed that I did have ovarian cancer. I know of so many heartbreaking stories where family practice doctors misdiagnose women with ovarian cancer. This is where my journey started in the right direction. I was then sent to a gynecologist, oncologist, Dr. Bruce Fine, a most compassionate and thorough doctor. I will never forget that Friday afternoon in early November, a beautiful fall day in Texas. After Dr. Fine had a chance to look over my scan and read my CA-125 report. And for those that don't know what a CA-125 report is, that is the test that you can take, and it will tell you if you have ovarian cancer. And also there's a test that's called BRAC1 and BRAC2. It's BRAC1, BRAC2. That test is a test that you can take, and it will tell you if you carry the genes for breast cancer. Also, some of the time, most of the time, if you have ovarian cancer, you will also could get ovarian cancer, and vice versa. If you have ovarian cancer, you could possibly have breast cancer later down the line. So, okay. So back to this. He looked over my scan and read my CA-125 report, which indicated it was at 900. When she speak about it indicated that she was at 900. The normal for a woman that don't have ovarian cancer is from 0 to 35. Anything over 35 is more likely you have ovarian cancer. I asked him on a scale of 1 to 10 how bad my cancer was. He answered a 10. I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. I felt my knees weaken. Feeling suddenly nauseated, I hung my head over the exam room toilet with Jack, my husband, holding on to me. I felt totally numb. How could this be when I had been feeling so good? The reality was hard to fathom. My husband asked if we could come back Monday. Dr. Fine, in no unconcerned terms, told us to march across the street and check into a medical city. That's name of a hospital that's here in Dallas. That was the longest walk of our 33 years of marriage. Within 5 days, I had 7 hours of surgery. It was followed up by several days in intensive care on a ventilator and a 3-week stay in the hospital, including a Thanksgiving dinner. I was home in early December. A week after coming home, I started the usual regimen of 6 rounds of carboplatin and Toxin. My family and friends were simply amazing during this time. Friends cooked gourmet meals night after night and finished my Christmas shopping. One special friend even decorated my house from top to bottom, while Jack and our 2 grown daughters decorated the tree. It was magnificent. My parents had arrived before my surgery and stayed through Christmas. I really was overwhelmed by all of the love and kindness I felt that Christmas. It was the most meaningful Christmas I have ever had. My treatment was successful, and after 6 rounds of chemotherapy, my CT scan showed no visible signs of cancer. Dr. Fine had encouraged me to participate in a clinical trial at MD Anderson. For me to be accepted into the trial, I had to have a second look surgery to verify that I had no visible tumors. No tumors was found, just a few microscopic cells. So we were off to MD Anderson in Houston for the summer to continue my journey. The trial involved harvesting my stem cells, high-dose chemotherapy, followed by an autologous stem cell transport. And I may have pronounced that wrong, but oh well. Dr. Fine felt the trial would give my cancer one more aggressive blow. The study was being run by Dr. Michelle Donato, a brilliant, compassionate young woman. I spent the summer in Houston and came home 2 days before our 34th wedding anniversary in early August 2003 to recuperate. Following my transplant, I had 3 wonderful years of remission. Jack and I took many exciting trips and spent many special times with friends and family. Once I was feeling stronger, I decided to look into genetic testing. This is what I was telling you about. The test for breast cancer. It's genetic testing to see if you carry the genes of breast cancer. My mother had been diagnosed with stage 1 ovarian cancer in 1989. Not until I became sick did I possibly even think that I could have the BRCA gene that puts you at a high risk for ovarian and breast cancer. I did, in fact, test positive for the BRCA2 gene, BRCA2. They got BRCA2 gene, as did my mother. Now my daughters had to make the decision of whether or not to be tested. They were both so brave and decided they wanted to know if they carried the gene. Paige, who was 32 at the time, tested negative. Brittany, who was 30, tested positive. It was such a difficult time for our family. But we all feel that knowledge is power, and we now have the knowledge we need to make the best decisions for our future. Brittany and I go for mammograms and sonograms every 6 months, and Brittany goes for her CA125 and a vaginal sonogram every 6 months. Paige is also more diligent and aware because of her family history. We are so proud of both of them. About the same time, I read an article in the paper about how two people met. The girl was Laura Williams. Laura was a ovarian cancer survivor. Her husband's mother had passed away from ovarian cancer, and that is what brought their two lives together. The article mentioned an ovarian cancer support group at Baylor that Laura was a part of. Up until then, I had never really thought I needed a support group. I had all the support I needed with family and friends. But something drew me to the group, a sort of sisterhood. I am so thankful that my journey has brought them to me. They have changed my life and enriched me in so many ways. Only my sisters can truly understand that once you are given a diagnosis of cancer-free, you are never truly free from cancer. It is with you every day. This wonderful group of ladies is the bravest I know. I listen to them tell their stories every Monday and am amazed by their strength. We laugh, we cry, and we share information. I have been traveling with them through our journey for 3 years, and they hold a special place in my life. In July 2006, after 3 wonderful years of a remission, my cancer returned. It was a 2-centimeter spot on my liver. Dr. Fine and Dr. Gojal performed surgery in August 2006, followed by 6 more treatments of carboplatin and Taxol. My treatments have been over now for 2 months. I had a clear PET scan in January, so once again I am in remission. I am feeling stronger every day. I am so excited about my new thick lashes and eyebrows and my fuzzy hair, even if it is gray. My husband has the sweetest way of kissing me on my head and rubbing the new sprouts of hair. He truly makes me feel that bald is beautiful. I feel very hopeful that I will have another long remission. As I look back on the last 4.5 years of this unexpected journey, the road has been difficult, but it has also changed my life in so many positive ways. I have been carried along on my journey by my wonderful family, my very special friends, and the love of and strong belief in God. And this story was Debbie Sovereign. Let's see. Hold on a minute. We'll try to find another one. That one wasn't the long one that I thought it was. I'm looking for this story that I wanted to find. This might be one of them. Okay. I'm gonna try this one. Title of this one is Who's in Control? Not Me. Let me see. Wait a minute. I am looking for some of the long ones that I have never read. Try this one. It's How the Worst Time Can Be the Best Time. When Scott, our firstborn, was 6 months old, Charles and I made a commitment to serve the Lord. Even though we've fallen short way too often, God has always been faithful to us. He entrusted us with 3 beautiful children, Scott, Lori, and Christy, and blessed us in many ways as we raised them. Now they were grown and caring for their own families, and it was time for us to retire to travel and do the things we enjoy, or so we thought. When I'd been retired only a few months, in mid-September 2004, the mail brought one of those postcards from my gynecologist. Time for your annual checkup. I was feeling good, finally over a bad sinus infection, so I tossed it in with my bills, thinking I'll get to it soon. Suddenly that weekend, I started having a lot of uncomfortable bloating in my stomach. I told Charles this reflux is really acting up. It's so bad I may need that surgery I've been reading about. So Monday I retrieved the card and called, requesting an appointment for my annual physical, saying nothing about my symptoms. The receptionist asked, "Can you be here this Wednesday at 2:30?" I couldn't believe I could see the doctor that quickly. Usually it took several weeks. I didn't realize it then, but that was the first indication that God would be with me in the coming ordeal. I'll pause this minute. I told you that I had my mammogram this morning, and I also did my pap smear last week. So maybe it was on my heart to do this reading for someone that may need to hear it. Okay. I was going on about my symptoms when Dr. Green interrupted me. "Dot, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have a mass. I don't know what it is, but it's big. I want you to have a blood test today and come back tomorrow for a sonogram." I guess my mind was playing tricks on me, but until then I hadn't thought about the possibility of cancer. My first reaction was fear. but it was immediately followed with what I can only describe as a picture of a ticker tape going through my mind with these words: Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I would not be afraid, for thou art with me. I knew right away it was reassurance from the Holy Spirit, and I told my doctor, it's in the Lord's hand. There was no assurance that I would be healed, just the certainty that He would be taking every step I did, no matter what they find. On Thursday, September the 29th, Scott's 37th birthday, Dr. Green called with the results of the test. Charles had just retired from the clinic, and Dr. Green knew him well, so they talked. Charles, hanging up with tears in his eyes and voice cracking, said, all indications are that it's ovarian cancer. I was stunned. Except for my paternal grandfather, who had a facial cancer back in the early 1940s, no one in my family had cancer, at least not to my knowledge. The only lady I had known to have ovarian cancer died from it at the age of 49. So I thought I had been given a death sentence. How can I describe the thoughts and fears whirling through my mind? I wanted to run so far I would outrun it. I wanted to scream and turn back the clock about 4 days. I was afraid I couldn't handle it, that I would be a wimp. All these thoughts and more flashed through my mind while Charles was telling me what the doctor said. I stood there facing him, trying to listen over the roaring in my ears, and I prayed, Lord, you know my makeup. On my own, I would be a basket case. Please give me your strength and help me handle this. I want to be strong. Before I could even say amen, warmth flooded through me from the top of my head to the ends of my fingers and toes. It was God's peace and a sense of His love for me, and it stayed with me throughout the ordeal. I spent most of my life fighting feelings of inferiority, and negativism. I'm having a problem with them words, so y'all forgive me. But contrary to what you would expect, I had a radical change in my thinking. I became a much more positive person. I felt totally accepted and overwhelmingly loved by God, by other people, and even by myself. Think about going to MD Anderson, Dr. Green suggested. If your insurance doesn't pay for chemotherapy, Anderson will work with you. The doctor who wrote the book on ovarian cancer is there. However, he trained the oncologists at Baylor. But our very supportive older daughter, Lori, lives in Plano with her family, and we are only an hour away. So we decided to stick with Baylor. When we called the number my doctor gave us for the appointment, we were told to be there in 2 weeks. My wife is very uncomfortable. Can't you get her in any sooner? Charles asked. Tell her if she's that uncomfortable to go to the emergency room. We are booked solid, but if we get a cancellation, we will call you with their seemingly uncaring retort. At home, we waited uncomfortably for the oncologist's appointment. One day, we were out running errands. When we returned home at 1:15 p.m., There was a message on the answer machine from Baylor. We had a cancellation and we can work you in if you can be here at 1:30 p.m. today. Of course, we couldn't make it in 15 minutes. That turned out to be another way God was watching out for my best interest, because the very next day we received a call from Texas Oncology, a group of uh, oncology doctors who also have offices at Baylor Hospital. I don't know how they got my name, but the lady said the place where you have an appointment is the free clinic. Do you have insurance that will pay for chemotherapy? I answered, they say they will. Here's the name and number if you would like to call and verify it. Within 30 minutes, she called back and affirmed what my booklet said. They worked me in the next business day, which was a Monday. Somehow, my local doctor had it in his mind that my insurance would not pay for chemo. Right or wrong, it seemed that you get better care if you have insurance. I strongly believe that God had his hand in it, and he was directing me to Dr. Alan Stringer, a wonderfully capable and compassionate Christian gynecologist, oncologist. I wanted to take all the steps I was supposed to and be certain that I had all the T's crossed and I's dotted just right. So I followed the advice in James 5:13 through 15. Is any one of you sick? He should call the elders of the church to pray over him and anoint him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord would raise him up. I discussed it with my pastor, Reverend Tony Neal. One Wednesday night after the service, Reverend Neal and 3 of his deacons came to my house, anointed me with oil, and laid hands on my head and prayed for me, even though they emphasized that we should pray for God's will more than my physical healing. Well, I believed that, and I knew for certain that God had touched me, and he would indeed work out his will for me, even without these steps. But I was doing everything I knew to do. I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. 1 minute, my grandkids are home. Let me shut them up. Close my door. Sorry. Yes, I'm recording. Okay, sorry about that. My grandson's loud. Okay, let me see. Okay. During the second week after my diagnosis, I started gaining weight rapidly. I gained about 20 pounds from the time of my original diagnosis to the day of my surgery 3 weeks later, as if I had a huge balloon inside. My tummy was also protruding by leaps and bounds. I soon looked like I was about to deliver a baby. When Dr. Stringer examined me on October 12, 2004, I could tell a significant difference in the examination from when Dr. Green examined me 2 weeks before. This tumor has spread, and I don't know if we can do surgery now. We may have to start with a couple of chemo treatments to shrink it first, Dr. Stringer told me. Chemotherapy is effective about 80% of the time, but I will schedule you for a CT scan tomorrow, and we'll make that determination after we see the results, he added. That night, I went to the ladies' Bible study at church. About 25 to 30 women have been meeting regularly for about the last 8 years, and we have grown a lot through our studies. I told the ladies of the events of the day, please pray that the chemotherapy is effective, I requested. The next day, Charles was driving me to Baylor, and about the time we went through Ennis, I told him, I don't know how to explain it, but something is happening to my body. For a lack of better way to describe it, it was like tiny, almost not there fluttering, but not really. Perhaps it was more of a sensation, or maybe just a whisper of knowledge, but I was convinced God was doing something. Since my appointment wasn't until 6 p.m., it wasn't until mid-morning the next day, Wednesday, when the doctor called. Good news, Doc. The CAT scan indicates we can indeed proceed with the surgery next week. I will always believe it was the prayer from the ladies of my church that made the difference. Dr. Jonathan O., my surgeon, set the time for 11:30 a.m. on October 19th. My family and several dear friends started arriving about 9 a.m. The ladies in our Bible study sent word that at 11:30 they would stop what they were doing, get down on their knees, and pray for my successful surgery. I didn't know all of this until much later, but the surgery lasted 5.5 hours. We removed 4 tumors, and the largest was the size of a soccer ball. We also removed her ovaries, the omentum, and parts of each of the large and small intestines. Dr. O went on to tell them, we know there are 2 tumors that were too small to be removed, and her chest has so many precancerous cells it looks like someone threw a cup of rice at her. We could have gotten it out. We could have gotten it all, but it would have taken 19 hours, and she would not have been able to hold up to it. The surgery was on a Tuesday, and they kept me in ICU until Friday, explaining there were no rooms available on the ovarian cancer ward. I was sedated most of the time, but I do remember snatches of family coming to see me. One memory that stands out is of Scott waving an angel figurine that he had purchased and kept right over my bed, assuring me that angels were watching over me. Excuse me. Once they admitted me to a private room, I made rapid progress. Dr. O discharged me Wednesday, 8 days after surgery, stating, I'm surprised at how well you are doing. Anytime he made a comment on that order, I would quickly assure him it was because many people were praying for me. I was 35 pounds lighter when I left the hospital than I was before my surgery. Prior to the first treatment, my doctor gave me samples of an anti-nausea drug named it mended. The next evening, I got just a bit sick to my stomach, but throughout the 6 months of treatments, I never again experienced nausea, nor did I ever vomit. My problem was weakness, dizziness, and shortness of breath. If I cooked, I had to keep a chair near the stove and counter because I could not stand for any period of time. I was so forgetful it was embarrassing. When I told Dr. Stringer how weak and dizzy I was after the first treatment, he assured me it was only to be expected. After all, you had a traumatic surgery that you were not healed from by any means, followed by the chemo in only 2.5 weeks. So you had a double whammy. Dr. Stringer warned me that I would lose my hair, and just about everyone whom I talked with agreed. Carla, a friend who lived in our community and is a member of our church, had been my beautician for several years. I phoned her. Carla, everyone tells me I'm going to lose my hair. If it happens, I want to come and let you shave it, but I don't want to do it in front of your mirror where I could see what's happening. I would like for you to do it in your back room. Then I will don one of my hats and go home to my bathroom where I could scream as loud as I want to. Several days after the first treatment, my head was sore for a few days, but I didn't shed any hair. After all, I reasoned. The Bible says a woman's hair is her glory, and maybe this is another way the good Lord is blessing me. When I returned for my next appointment, I proudly told everyone that I still had my hair, but Dr. Stringer deflated me. Your hair will most assuredly fall out. On day 17 after second chemo, my hair began to shed. For 3 days, it was in everything, even my mouth. So I called Carla and told her it was time. She was an angel. You don't need to be out in this cold, wet weather. I will come to your house in the morning before I go to work. She insisted. When she arrived, I was crying. Throughout the diagnosis, the surgery, and the first 2 chemos, I remained dry-eyed and upbeat. I suppose it's silly to get so hung up about something that's so minor in relationship to everything else, but the thought of losing my hair was devastating. Doc, I can just cut it short. Then, if you see the need, I can come back later. We don't have to shave it today, she offered, but her husband, Bubba, was facing major surgery the following week, and I didn't want to bother her to return for the second time, especially when she wouldn't let me pay her. This is a talent the Lord gave me, and I want to do it for you, she insisted. So out came the razor, and down went my hair. That's just an example of how wonderful and kind people were to me during that time. Charles stuck to me like glue and did everything I couldn't. My children were very loving and supportive. When I was diagnosed, I told a few friends, and before long I found out I was on the prayer list of many individuals and churches throughout the whole United States. People brought food, called, and sent cards, and showed me God's love in many ways. My church even gave me a hat shower. Liz, one of my best friends, called me every day for 6 months, even when she was out of town. I also met a few of the ladies from the support group at Baylor who will never know what an inspiration they've been to me. But I absolutely hated looking at myself in the mirror. I was always careful to have my head covered with a hat or a wig. I had to. I had to. Okay. After a few months, I started wearing a baseball cap around the house. Finally, I loosened up enough to go bald when only Charles and I were there. One day, as we sat down to eat lunch, I asked him, Charles, does it bother you or put you off for me to come to the table with my head bare? I was so touched by his response. Not at all. When I see your head, it reminds me of how good God has been. While I was having my 6th chemo treatment, Beth, Dr. Stringer's nurse, handed me a card with the dates and times of my next appointments. You will have a CAT scan. Then a week later, an appointment with Dr. Stringer. But he said it is not necessary to schedule any further chemotherapy. The feeling of relief mixed with gratitude was simply overwhelming. At home, I resolved to get back to my routine as quickly as possible, walking just a bit more each day, resuming household chores, thanking God for each new day when I awoke. I testified to God's goodness and mercy at every opportunity. But the closer it got to the next 90-day checkup, the more anxious I became. The fear of returning is said to be the worst on cancer patients than the treatment, and I found out what that meant. What if it comes back? What if it comes back? Was a constant refrain that would not turn me loose. I prayed and asked God for help, and He never failed to calm me. But it wouldn't be long until I once again was on the brink of a panic attack. I was grumpy, lashing out at my husband and others when they didn't deserve it, and I was eating everything in sight. Finally, I got desperate and prayed, Lord, you know my heart, and you know I do trust you. You have proven yourself to me over and over, and I don't know why I am so anxious about this. Please take away this fear from me once and for all. You know I don't want to live like this. That night, a lady about my age knocked on our door. She introduced herself as a friend of my neighbor and inquired what kind of cancer was it. When I said ovarian, she nonchalantly replied, Oh, I had that in 1989. The doctors kept close tabs on me for a while, but then my checkups got further apart until finally they said to resume my regular annual checkups. I've been fine ever since. Well, she was attractive and looked quite healthy, so I took that to be the answer to my prayer. I was finally able to settle down. Sure enough, when I had all the tests in June, the doctor came in with a big smile and the welcoming words, all is well. We don't detect any signs of cancer. As of this writing, it's been nearly 2.5 years since my surgery and 2 years since my last chemo treatment. And so far, that's the same report I get every time. Our youngest daughter, Christy, was 33 when she found out she was expecting her first baby. We already had 4 precious grandchildren, but I had no assurance that I would live to see the baby of our baby, who was due in March 2005. One day, while I was reading, these words jumped out at me. May you live to see your children's children. Psalms 128 and 6 verse. I claimed that verse, and the day I had my 5th chemo treatment that lasted for 5 hours, Christy had her baby. We left Baylor Hospital in Dallas at 6 p.m. and had been in the hospital room in Round Rock about 10 minutes when they brought Tyler to his mother for the first time. As of this writing, we have just returned from going to his 2nd birthday party. Every time I look into Tyler's beautiful eyes, I think about God's love and his wonderful promise to me. My husband said I have a glow about me, like I've faced the giant and won. That I have, although I don't think for 1 minute that I should get credit for any of it. Actually, it is more of an awe over what God has done for me through all this. It was the Lord, pure and simple, that gave me peace and strength in his healing touch. Yes, I had faith, but the Bible tells us that even our faith is a gift from God. So the fact that I can sit here and write this, cancer-free, is only because of his love and grace. So you see, this story is not really about me. It is mind-boggling to me that the God who rules the universe and has billions of people to care for knew all about my troubles and cared enough to answer my prayer before I even said amen. I asked him why he blessed me so and what I'm supposed to do about it now. One day, when I was reading the Bible, these words from Psalms 118 jumped out at me. You will live and not die, and will proclaim what the Lord has done. Whether I live 1 more year or 30, this is what I am attempting to do. I have no real assurance that there won't be a reoccurrence, although several people told me they prayed that I would be healed and that it would never return again. If it should, I am aware that the outcome could be entirely different. There's only one thing I am certain of. I have the strength and peace that only he can give. I can handle anything that happens to this old body. I believe he has used me through this to be an instrument to show others his love and power, and to offer hope and encouragement no matter what your circumstances are. There are different kinds of healing, and it's not always physical. But for everyone whose heart is right with God and turns to him for help, his word promises that he will be our refuge and strength and an ever-present help in times of trouble. Psalms 46:1. I thank him every day for his presence and for the way he understands me, relieves all my anxieties, and provides just what I need for every situation. Read Philippians 4:6-7. The paradox is that while I hope and pray with all my heart, it never returns. In many ways, my experience during those dark days is the best thing that ever happened to me. My prayer is that everyone who experienced the reality of our awesome God in her own life. And this story was by, her name was Dot Reynolds. And I guess those are my two stories for y'all. Let's see, I got about 5 minutes. Maybe I can talk to you. I normally read, tell y'all some symptoms of ovarian cancer. Let me see if I can find them. Hold on. Let me get my other book. I think I wrote it in my other book. Okay. And for anybody that's new, this is the other book, the second book. This one is the first book that was written. This was the second. It's I think 24, 25 stories in each one of these books. The first one was called Torch. The second one is called Torch, still burning brightly. And let me look for my. Oh, okay, I got them. Let me get a few more minutes in. Some of the ovarian symptoms is bloating, a swollen tummy pain, backache, irregular cycle, fatigue, feeling of fullness when eating. This word, I always pronounce it incorrectly, but I think it's diverticulitis, something like that. Some people know what I'm talking about. Diverticulitis, I think that's it. Painful intercourse, constipation or diarrhea, indigestion, or increased urination. Get out of here. Lung issues, shortness of breath, chest pains because of the fluid around your lungs.